Please welcome the incredible Marshawn Evans Daniels.
Hello, sister. How you doing?
Oh my gosh. So she is wearing the most epic blazer right now, which is actually the same color as the one I'm wearing on the cover of my podcast. So there you go.
Synergy.
We think alike. We had a really cool bonding moment. So where we met was in Charleston a couple years ago at a mastermind that I actually talk about a lot on this show because it was one of those moments where I felt so like such in a room where I didn't belong because I didn't think I was playing big enough. We talked about this earlier. And then I see this incredible beauty who has this warmth and energy, much like mine. And I think that's why you and I just hit it off because we saw each other.
Yeah. Interesting that going into that space, I had just lost my father. I was coming up on a year, so it wasn't just, but when you're coming up on the first time experiencing the anniversary of loss like that, it feels like yesterday again. You don't know how you're going to navigate. And then you're in this room full of some of the most successful people in your industry. And that's can be somewhat intimidating to begin with. People that you've seen online, that I've seen online for over a decade, that I've never met in person or been in the same space with them. And it was really just a really lovely experience. The first day I was feeling like I didn't fit in there. And this is actually an interesting story of how that shifted. I'm feeling like I don't necessarily fit. I'm not sure even what I want to do with my life now. I've been going through, being a mother of triplets, and then also didn't mean to give that cat out of the bag, but that's kind of the background behind my life at this time is I've got these 3 baby girls. I've got a business that I am trying to still figure out my identity as a fatherless daughter. And I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I kind of have an idea. And I'm like, everybody in here knows what they want to do. Everybody knows what they want to do. And then I had this moment, I looked around and I just felt like I did not belong. And I tried to get up to go to the bathroom because it was a break. And out of nowhere, your husband, Dan, says, "Hey, Marshawn, so tell me about you." That little thing. And then I turned back and that he just started saying, "Oh, well, here's what you need," just so casually. And at the end of the mastermind meeting, Stu McLaren asked, who had the most impact on you during the 3 days that we all spent together. And I was like, absolutely, Dan Martin. And getting the chance to meet both of you was just a very rich experience for me overall. But that is who you all are, is that you see people as people, not just experts and not just, what you're known for. The fact that I was walking out and he stopped. I don't know if he sensed it or not, but because he was looking down. I'm like, do you see out of the corner of your eye? But he did. And that's how I fell in love with your family.
Aw, yeah. And we had some really epic bonding moments in the green room putting on our makeup before going on stage because I was nervous AF.
And you gave me real advice where I asked if I should wear my hair up or down. And you're like, girl, leave it down. I was like, oh, really? I'm like, you got to have a girl who tells you the truth. And so, that was real talk right there.
Yeah. And I think what a great message too for the listeners in that you're an established, incredible woman. And we're in this room because we're invited to be in this room, first of all. Mm-hmm. And we talk about the big names, the heavy hitters. We know who these people are. And the sense of not belonging is it was that feeling for you was true for you as it was for me, but it was also very wrong because we belonged there and for so many reasons. Yeah. And
but there's a difference between belonging and fitting. Yeah. Like belonging, does your resume meet the criteria for the caliber of thought leadership that needs to be in the room to add value and to receive value? Absolutely. In the Bible, that would be called iron sharpening. As one man sharpens another, iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. You do need people who are experienced versus beginners in a room full of experienced people, because that's what we really crave, is to be around other big minds. But you can have that and still not fit. Maybe your beliefs, maybe your values, maybe the way you carry yourself, maybe the thing that you just feel, for some reason, you feel like people look at you like alien. It could be wrong, but it is really real for you if that's still your belief. I think that when you feel like you fit. You may belong because of your mind, but do you fit because of yourself? Like you're just yourself. And I think that is, as you were talking, that kind of came to me as like, I didn't doubt my resume. I didn't doubt what I've done. I just didn't know who I was in this moment. And also, even being there, it didn't feel safe to be that uncertain. And it was, certainly. And I just don't feel like I still fit, though, in this industry. I still
Mm.
don't.
Mm. And the best gift was the energy. I remember having those feelings, and before parting at the end of the evening,
Mhm.
Amy Porterfield took me aside and was like, "Hey, let's stay in touch." And she gave me her phone number, and I thought that was so beautiful. And she held my hands and she just said, "I know you don't feel like you fit in or belong here." I paraphrased. She goes, "But just by the nature of you being here, this room is a better room."
Absolutely.
And you're like, wait a second, I don't even have to talk. I don't have to participate because energetically, it was just oozing out of me. We all have that possibility within us.
It's
And so
good.
I always urge people to go in those rooms where those people are that might scare you or intimidate you. Because just by the nature of you being there, you're going to absorb the wisdom, but also you will give back value to other people just by you being there.
Yeah, I was in a mastermind it was either the first or second year that I was in a mastermind, and I'd never done one before. And a lot of my experiences in being in mass market media, working with professional athletes, working with companies, and doing television, uh, caused people to always gravitate towards me for information. I'm coming to learn, and I wanted to add value. And a lady pulled me aside one day. She had a horse business of some sort. You know, horse people are just very calm people. Like they have a totally different communication with their animals. And she said, Marshawn, I noticed that people are always at you and that you're always adding value to them. She goes, people can be transformed simply by your presence. You don't have to really say anything. I've never forgotten. Not only I didn't just not forget it because it was a powerful statement. I remembered it because she thought it was important enough to pull me aside to tell me that. Like she saw something that was maybe a nervous, proving, or over giving essence. And I have to be reminded of that sometimes, that people can be transformed simply by the nature of your presence. Now, that's real being. And I still practice that.
Oh, yeah. And the people who are most sensitive to that are your kids and your
Mm.
dogs. I noticed that with my dog.
How's it
But
with your
kids,
kids? Tell me, I'm still a new mommy. I got 3 almost 5-year-olds.
oh my gosh, yeah, we want to hear that story too. 'Cause my boys are now 11 and 12, so they're 11 months apart. So I
Mm.
remember us like kind of exchanging war stories about this because you had three in one go. I had two in 11
With
months. Probably the same outcome in a way. But I love this age. I
Mhm.
love this age. They're independent. They're like packing their own suitcases, albeit not the best. And it's like, and every moment I can take to just like hold on to their childhood a little bit more, I do. And it's that being present, that just seeing like their little hands still and like their little noses and like it's just, oh.
Yeah.
So what I love about your girls' age is they still have the little kid teeth. That was my favorite. Little kid teeth. I don't know why. I just think it's the
I can see
cutest.
that. It's just the cute. There's just so many little cute things. And I'm so grateful that my girls are exceptionally healthy for being
Yeah.
preemie. We were born at 35 weeks, which is a long time to carry triplets. I
Wow.
didn't know if I would be able to physically carry them because I was slender. I was a slender body. I had never been pregnant before. And then I'm very pregnant, like
Yeah.
very, very, very pregnant. And they give you all these doom and gloom stories. When I wrote my one of my books, 100 Days of Believing Bigger, that's a devotional. I wrote this while I was pregnant. I didn't know I was going to be pregnant when I did the book deal. I needed a little bit of an extension, but then I'm writing it while they're telling us that we have a 4% likelihood of going full term. So I'm
Oh
writing
my
these
gosh.
devotionals every day while I'm going to doctor's appointments. I'm 40, so they're telling me I'm geriatric and all of these risks and all these tests. And I'm hearing God say, Don't let anybody touch the womb. Don't go in. Don't test anything. Everything will be fine. So I've got to listen the first time I'm ever pregnant to these doctors, all these specialists, and find the centering of what decision I'm going to make for them as their mother. And we were even once told that we should selectively reduce one of the babies. And I remember laying next to my husband. I was asleep, I think, but not asleep. It's hard to explain that state. But I saw this golden halo outline, and I knew exactly which baby it was. It was baby C. We didn't have a name then. And it was coming up on that 13, 14 week time frame where they kind of say, you've got to make the decision here. And she appeared to me, and I knew who she was. She didn't say anything, but I heard her very clearly. She said, I'm here. And once I was fully awake, I told my husband, we're not going to the appointment. We're canceling it, because now what they're telling me is that I'm going to potentially compromise the other two. These decisions about women and our bodies and autonomy are not simple choices. We have lots of complex things that I think are very spiritual, very personal. I think we should treat life sacredly for sure. It's also just a very non-black and white experience. And all of them came out healthy. Two of them spent one night in the NICU, and baby C only spent 2 nights in the NICU.
Oh, wow.
And so we were there. My first one got released at 2 weeks. My second one was sent home at 2.5 weeks, and my third at 3 weeks. So they were preparing us for 100 days in the hospital and all of these issues, and that was the experience of a lot of triplet moms who were pregnant with me at the same time. And so I learned a lot about believing bigger. I learned a lot about being grateful and thankful, but becoming mama bear happens early, happens while their little feet are kicking. Yeah. And I didn't know what Braxton Hicks were. I thought it was baby B. I didn't know until I'm there before delivery. They've got all these monitors. And I said, that's Kaya. And they know that's Braxton Hicks. And I'm like, what's a Braxton Hicks? I had no idea what a Braxton Hicks contraction was, and I'd been having them the whole time.
Okay, so do you know who baby C is today?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And is she fierce?
Is she what?
Is she fierce?
So the first time I had an ultrasound, and I saw just where they were able to tell me I was pregnant, and I saw the little amoeba looking types of looks on there. I drew it in my journal, how they looked. And then I gave each of them a destiny name at the time. Later, after they were born, I went to that page. God said, go look at that page. I turned it over. They were in the exact same order throughout the time that they were in my womb. And A is Cage, B is Kaya, C is Callie. So A, she's my firstborn, and I now call her Boss Baby. She's my alpha.
Yeah.
She's at the bottom. On my left side was Kaya, and she's my happy baby. And then Callie, she was baby C, and she is my chill baby. She was so calm, and she still is. Now she gets a little spicy because she's got to fight for her own territory with her sisters, who are full of personality. But they are who they are now that God told me they were in the womb. 100%. Their names have specific meaning. The destiny names I gave them before I gave them their actual earth names, they're who they are. And that's what helps me to understand it. It's not my job to make them in my image. It's my job to help nurture who they want to be.
Because they've already been made in the image of the Creator.
So, Kaya is busy, but she was flipping all the time. And I had to realize I can't just ask her to sit still. She's not made to do that. She's been doing it since before she came here. So how can I nurture that? Let me put her in dance or ballet or running, or just let her be and not think it needs to be fixed.
We had names for the boys too. We had Benjamin, Connor, Jackson, I don't even know. And I remember Max, he's our first. I was like walking up and down the hallway to try to get the whole labor stuff going because it was a 24-hour day.
Wow.
And at one moment, Dan turns to me and he's like, I don't think that he's any of these names.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fair enough. What do you think it is? Like at that point, I was just so delirious from being exhausted. He's like, Max. And I'm like, yeah, let's just go with Max because I was just so tired. And he's so Max.
Yeah.
And here's a beautiful story about Noah, because also that name was not on the list whatsoever. He was born in July. No word of a lie. He was born on the rainiest day of the summer. As he was delivered, the clouds opened up. It became sunny for like 30 minutes, and then it started raining again. When the nurse came in to ask us if we have chosen a name, and we said, yeah, Noah, and she almost cried. She's like, I don't
Mm.
know if you know, but it's been raining all day. And when he was born, the sun came out and then it started raining again.
Wow.
And
It's
I
one of
turned to
my
him, I go, Noah,
favorite.
baby,
Wow.
you got a big job in your life because you're going to have to save the world.
The whole world. It's the
Yeah,
world.
the whole world.
It's the world.
But I think it's just so beautiful and like what's coming to me now is just how if we just don't overthink things and we
Mm.
just let our intuition and just like grace guide us,
Yeah.
things end up happening way better than we anticipate.
Yeah. I'm a July 20 baby, so I'm partial to July babies.
Okay. He's July 26th.
Nice timing.
Yeah, he's
Timing.
my little Leo.
Nice.
Yeah, are you a Leo?
I don't follow signs.
Okay. No. I
I
like
don't.
it because, well, we're the three of us are Leos. We're,
Mhm.
yeah,
Technically,
fire
what I've
sign.
been told is that I don't meet the cutoff for the lion, but you see there's a
Oh.
lion behind me on my desk. Like the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
lion of Judah with the crown.
Oh, I
And
love
the documents brand, lion is our thing. So
There you go.
I just consider myself a child of God, here to
We
do
are
great things.
children of our creators. I absolutely love it. Okay. Let's talk about some business stuff. So, well,
Hey.
first of all, you have these three incredibly adorable girls that came about. You were 40 during a pandemic.
Mhm.
Like that ain't easy doing all that stuff. Plus, it during that time, what were you doing?
So we were on it's real pandemic, like it's the heart of it. And I remember after having my baby shower in February, like 2 or 3 weeks later, the entire world shut down.
Yeah.
If you remember, there's no toilet paper, no Clorox wipes. We don't even know what the masks are for exactly. We don't even know what it is. And so I had a book coming out that year. I also started a direct sales company selling wellness products. I was very in my coaching company. I teach high-end business and high-end business coaching, specifically how to build a high-end speaking and coaching enterprise through paid speaking and high stakes, high end coaching, which I think is different than high ticket. And then also how to build a big brand, mass market. So I've been doing that for a long time. And there's something about motherhood that makes you become open to other things. It's like, I don't know if this type of postpartum is talked about, like the identity and the desire to explore new things. And so I had an opportunity. I met a woman who had done billions of dollars in sales on Amazon. We become close friends. And she says, I'm going to start this wellness company. I'm going to grow it to this month's monthly recurring revenue. I said, I'm going to go do it with you. I didn't do any research. I just decided to do it. And so I had a lot going on in 2020. I had 6-month-old triplets when my book came out. I had launched, it's crazy that I did this, that I launched a direct sales team for women to help them have home-based businesses because I'm like, everyone's not going to be a successful brand online. Everyone doesn't have the talent for that. They don't have the desire for that. And you shouldn't have to be live streamable to make great money. And I'm really grateful for the women that we helped. And I still make a recurring income almost 4.5 coming up on 5 years later from the products that people bought from me. I really do believe in recurring income. I do believe in leverageable income as well too. So for me, it was a great exploration to see other ways of doing things when you've been doing something one way for, at that time it would have been 11 years,
Okay.
you know? Like just giving yourself permission to try something else. So I would not do it again though. It is one of my biggest regrets that I started a new company while I was releasing a book, while I was still running my coaching company with 6-month-old triplets. And that I trusted someone, although I think the intentions were good. I think when you go into business with people, you do need some roots. You need some history because that person flaked after a couple of days. Not days, maybe 2 months, but that felt like days. And for me, we did a big launch around this. My reputation matters. Who I am as a woman matters, but who I am to I have a very diverse audience, but who I am to Black women, my word is everything. I know that I have created space and I'm an example for them to see for the first time, many of them, what a woman of faith who's a multimillionaire looks like. So when I said we're going to do this, although I thought I was doing this with someone, I'm not going to leave you just because she left me. And she left this thing that we were all invited into. And that was stressful for me to carry women through a company that I had never run before and didn't know how to succeed in. And we did great, and I am proud of us. And I still, looking back at it, I wouldn't do it again. And so now I look at how I wouldn't do it again, knowing what I know now about how precious the 6-month-old stage is.
Oh, I know.
But I would do it again, and I will do it again, but I now understand how to better center family. I was there, and I have been with my kids every single day because I work from home. And at the same time, I've now learned about my capacity and my bandwidth and how to prioritize it better. I haven't gotten it right yet, but I'm still working on that.
Okay, well, let's talk about that, because I know we can imagine what that life was like with triplets and businesses and books and pandemic.
And no
But
help.
it's almost like you were just said, hey, what are all the things I can sign up for during a pandemic? And you're like, yeah, sure, let's just do it. My question is, did you move during that time too? I feel like every woman who's had a baby, they move houses in that time.
So we moved, the girls were not quite 2 yet. Let me see. They were 1.5. So actually a year after I started that business, it was September 2021. We had a dream home. It was a very modern, not a home you would normally see in Atlanta, and it worked really well for the two of us. And then it wasn't safe for triplets anymore. I mean, for kids, period. I mean, it's glass staircase lining. And when they're standing up and putting their hands against the glass, you're like, we have to go because they're only going to get bigger and stronger, And so we moved and we got this beautiful home that technically we should not have because it was off market. And it was meant for us, is exceptional. And so we did move, but we moved still in the pandemic timeframe. It was still 2021, but we've been here now for 3 years. It feels like yesterday, but when they came in, they weren't really speaking words, and now I can't get a word in myself.
We moved during that time as well, across the country, from like one end to the other. But the reason why I ask is because I feel like a lot of women that operate at our level always move when their kids are so young.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't think about it like that. I just knew that the house did feel smaller when you have 3 babies in 6 minutes, like when 3 kids come into your life in one day. And this is more than what we could have imagined or dreamed, but I still think it was meant for us.
100% it was, because you got a house that was off market, and it was meant to be. A
Well,
lot of things
we got offered $1 million over what we agreed to from another buyer who wanted to buy it for $1 million over so we wouldn't move in.
Oh, wow.
The realtor's like, I will sell this house twice before closing. So like we do two. And we said, no. So we knew that it was a super blessed thing that we got it. And also, but that's a pretty good feeling walking in, not only with existing equity, but also that, someone would pay you $1 million more to try to take it from you right away. I'm like, now you're like, I really am not going to let it go.
Seriously, you're like, now I want it more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the kids are like that. It's like they don't want it, and then all of a sudden someone else wants it, now they want it more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you've probably hit a lot of setbacks in this journey of motherhood and entrepreneurship. And part of this, I'm going to feel assured that you actually probably coach a lot of other people through this too. But what is the first step to overcome those setbacks and moving on, however big or small? What are some things that you do personally?
That's interesting about setbacks. When you said that, I was like, have I had setbacks? I think I've had discouragement and self-doubt. From the outside, I think everything we've done has been successful to others. When we did move, which was wild, on a Wednesday, I sent an email out because I've been wanting to do a membership, and 100 Days of Believing Bigger, we sold out a year's worth of books in 14 days in the pandemic with no marketing team. I had one assistant, and I told my marketing team, all that stuff I put in the proposal was pre me having babies. I have no family here. And it's continued to be a bestseller, a perpetual backlist bestseller now. I sent out an email. I'm like, everyone else is teaching my books and doing these Bible studies around my devotional. I said, I should do my own. I sent an email out on Wednesday. 4,000 women show up on a Sunday to hear me talk
Wow.
about this. And 1,400 women paid in like 2 or 3 days, and we had a membership. I was blown away. I had never made an offer that wasn't a business offer. I'd never made a life and faith offer. I teach it as my voice and in sewing into people, but I haven't made an offer. It was a huge, and my husband and I, we were in the pool right before I, was going to do this live talk to everyone. And I'm walking around this new neighborhood that we're only a few days in. We're in the pool for the first time. And he was covering me and speaking warmly over me. And he said, environment matters, and we're here. You got to believe we deserve to be here, and that this is going to be different today. Like what you're offering today is representative of something new. And he said, as he was watching the sales committee, he said, I've never seen, because we use Google for Business, he said, we've never seen hundreds of emails stack. Like once you reach how Google will sometimes put all the emails with the same subject line, like in the same email, thread looking. He said it would change every 100. He said, I've never seen that many come through. And he's like, you were in there saying the first 100 people get this. They're like, girl, that was gone in seconds. And he said, I'd never seen it happen like that. And so I felt really aligned. And then my father passed away. Right. So I felt confused with, it wasn't instant, but it was after that, after this really big thing, my parents came, and then I realized my mom's health wasn't where it needed to be. And then my dad, we had to change our plans, and I couldn't launch the way I wanted to launch something because I needed to now go find health services for my mom. And then that year was difficult. I lost my play mother to Alzheimer's. And then, later that year, my dad passed away. And so I think the setbacks for me have been having this vision, and it feels like sometimes you're walking in it, and then it feels like a gut punch, and then a left hook and a right hook. And there are other people, who I understand that each of us, our obstacles are different. It's not a comparison of, I realize I'm going through this, but I also can still pay my bills, right? I'm going through this, and we also have a great home, and I still am able to afford childcare. But it also is like, that has probably been one of my biggest setbacks, is just believing that it's safe to build. It's safe to do new things. I was starting to see a correlation that my husband, he's a therapist by trade, a psychotherapist. And he's like, you can't see a correlation that every time you lean higher and deeper into your purpose, that something bad happens around your family. That's how I was feeling. So then I was internally feeling very timid and upset with God about, look, I wrote this book called Believe Bigger. And it was hard because everybody left. And I stopped my business where we made $2 million in an hour to write this $25 book for you. And you gave me this hard experience with this company who said my black face did not need to be on a cover of this book because white women would not buy it. Sales team explains this to me. I say this out loud, and then people online are like, well, it was just a business decision. No, it's a demonic statement. It's horrible to say to people. It represents something that is very, very wrong. But people say it. We have to internalize it. We got to be polite about it. And every time for me, it felt like that I would lean into these things around what I felt my real mission and purpose was. These obstacles would come up, this resistance that would require my whole focus and attention. And so I think for me, the setback has been resiliency more than anything. For me, grief has caused a little bit of a lack of confidence.
Oh, there's so much to unpack here. Okay, but before this, the grief thing's really palpable.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think these setbacks, these roadblocks showed up in your life when they did and how they did? I know we try to explain why, and then we try to find these reasons and meanings behind it, but I genuinely believe there's good meaning behind it.
I think I've tried to release the attachment to clarity of correlation versus just believing that everything I go through is what I'm supposed to grow into. Like it is, if I haven't, like when I was engaged beforehand, I was engaged when I had my sports agency managing NFL and NBA players. And I was a bonus mom to 3 kids at the time. And I loved the idea of being a mom because I had been successful in so many things: Georgetown Law, made it to the Supreme Court, big law firm, was on The Apprentice for 10 out of 13 weeks. I almost won the show. I've been on television. I'm on ESPN doing sports commentary. I'm representing the highest paid defensive end in the NFL, $62 million 7-year deal. And I meet this guy and we're getting married. And I find out 6 days before the wedding, while he's on the plane coming into Atlanta for wedding week, that he's cheating on me. That's what this book is about. What really believing bigger is about. It's not about success. It's about believing bigger than what you've been through. Now, at the time, I didn't know. I mean, I remember asking God, why did this happen to me? Not from a woe is me, but I know that God loves me. I know I've been walking with you a long time. And I know what you've taken me through into. And this is so out of the normal. This kind of stuff doesn't happen to me. I make all the right decisions. This could never happen to me. And when you ask for God to use you, you're asking for him to disrupt you. You're asking him to break you up. I didn't know that I had an addiction to success, and I didn't know what real significance was. I didn't know that my identity was solely in performance because I didn't know that there was anything else. I didn't know that I had blind spots, and I had to become responsible to say, he may have been putting his peanut butter in a bunch of other jelly. And it was happening the whole time, and I never knew. And it's even worse than what my publishers would allow me to put in the book. But I also attracted him. So I needed to take a personal account of how did I end up here? And now I can look back at it. I was working with males. I had zero desire to ever work with women. And all I do now is work with women. So I think you can sometimes see things in the retrospect. That happened, that level of disruption, I call it a split rock moment, is because there's new life, water that comes out. It's based off of Isaiah 48:21, where he says he split the rock and water gushed out. Now, you don't think about rocks and water. But when I was trying to go through healing and recovery, and I came across this verse, and I'd been dreaming of deserts, and God was like, that rock represents a hard place, Marshawn, but there's new life inside. I didn't know it would be coaching. I didn't even know what coaching was. I thought it was for people who didn't know what they want to do when they grow up. I'm a lawyer. I don't know what you coaches do over there. This is before knowing about this industry. The industry isn't even then what it is now in terms of the prominence of women and the money to be made. And so I don't know what it means right now. I think I'm in it. And one of the things I've learned in teaching now about supernatural disruption and how it leads us into divine reinvention is that you can't put the pieces together on your own. They really come together when you're in the new picture.
Oh, explain that.
The day after, when everyone still flew into Atlanta for wedding week because it was so close, they had their tickets. And instead of a rehearsal dinner, we had I Love Marshawn dinner. And this was back, I had my relationship still from my sports agency. So we used to do events at Diddy's restaurant called Justin's. Puffy is what we called him then. I didn't know him, but I made more money. I made the restaurant. They made the most money they'd ever made at the bar in the history of the restaurant. And I learned, side note, that I have a gifting around income generation. Like places that I go, I enrich the space. I'm not in sports. I don't even drink. I don't even know nightlife. And it's my first time doing an event like this for professional athletes with Rolls Royce and Tiffany and Company. I've never gotten these kind of sponsors. I am a boring former law student who doesn't even party. And I've signed all these elite clients. And that was so sweet of them to say, you know what, we want to host this dinner for you. We're sorry that happened. These are professional relationships. But the day after that, everyone is leaving. And I'm leaning up against this car that my then fiance bought me. And now I don't know how I'm going to pay for because I closed my business down to be married, to move to Chicago, to become a bonus mom. Because he said I could. He said, you seem like you've been working since kindergarten. And my dad said, Marshawn, you got to let a man trust you. You got to trust a man to take care of you. And I wasn't raised to think like that. I was raised to be very independent, but he said there's nothing wrong with letting a man do that. He wasn't wrong. But then it's something when the person who is supposed to catch you is the very one who drops you. Yeah. Right. So when everyone is getting ready to leave the next day, I said, God, why did this happen to me? And he said, you're going to change the lives of women like never before. This is while everybody's in front of this host hotel where we're supposed to be having, all the guests were supposed to be staying for different reasons. And I didn't know what God meant, but I knew He meant it. And that was the beginning of Him teaching me about a new version of me that would be capable. He said, you'll be able to change the lives of women like never before. That meant that I didn't have that capacity yet. Potential, but not capacity. Potential, but not desire. Potential, but not. And look, a woman just told me she was sleeping with my fiance. And now you're going to tell me I'm supposed to go help women? Not interested at all. But I trust that what you said is real, and I don't know what it means yet. And if I had tried to piece it together, which I think a lot of people in this industry do, is they try to take their hurt and turn it into a helper business too soon. And if I had done that, I'd be a relationship coach. That's not my gift. I was still I started teaching business because I realized people were picking my brain. And I saw these two white guys online who were charging $1,500 teaching stuff that I had done and a lot more than they had in these spaces of branding and television and books. And I'm like, I could do that. Nobody puts baby in the corner. They're not mad. Why didn't anybody tell me that this industry existed? And that's how I got in. It wasn't to fulfill a purpose. And it was also because the mortgage company didn't care that I was on a spiritual journey with God to find myself. I needed to pay my bills. That's how I got into the space. It didn't start out being about women. It took a couple of years. And I noticed that's who was gravitating towards it. Mm-hmm. So we can't put the pieces together. They come together. We're in the new picture, and I can look back and I can say, I didn't have a heart. I wasn't capable of the life I have today because I didn't even love the women that you were going to send my way. And it would be irresponsible for God to have sent them my way because I wasn't a safe place.
You weren't ready.
I wasn't ready.
Your experience becomes your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times and I'm saying you, but like women, people sometimes have to go through those rock bottom moments in order to take that experience to help others heal. Because really, our journey here in these meat sacks is to heal this generation for the next. Mm. And we have to go through some really crappy stuff in order to get to cross the finish line.
Right now. I can't put it together. It's frustrating for me. It's frustrating to teach on disruption and to know you're in the middle of it and you can't control it. And you can surrender to it, but it's harder when you know more to surrender even more.
Yeah.
Right. But I know how to navigate people. And then it's like, you've got more responsibility. You've got 3 kids now. It's not the same as taking 10 months to go find yourself and not do anything. And it's different. It's different this time. So I'm still figuring out how to navigate that. And I think that we would call it a setback. I would call it a dynamic that is humbling for me to continue to work through and to remember. I think also, Renee, I don't know how you've dealt with this with having children, but believing that you're still relevant too, when you've been in a space for a really long time. I've been in it 15 years, and to have to take a step back and then to come back in, or choose to take a step back and then to come back in. And like, am I doing what I still want to do because I've always done it? And do people still believe that I'm the, superhero that I've always been, when you haven't been on TikTok? I don't do TikTok, didn't do TikTok, or on Reels dancing and doing all the stuff to feed the algorithm that the kids do now, that grown kids do now. Like, it doesn't resonate that well with me to have to show up like that. And then it's like, are the most relevant people the ones who are the best at advertising, not necessarily the best?
No, I interviewed myself. I produced a solo episode that was about your quiet power and how we're not all destined to be on the cover of magazines or have, the top YouTube channels in the world. And I think that it's not even healthy for some people to think that's the only option. But when we have these quiet powers, you look at people like Warren Buffett as an example. He didn't set out to be one of the most influential financial people in the world. It just happened because of his genius. But he wasn't like loud and proud. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But there is something to be said about your quiet power. And I think it's a beautiful thing. We need those people that aren't just going to be the TikTok dancers.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I wrote that down. I have to find that episode.
Yeah. So my husband's the opposite, and I love that for him. I love it for him. Like, you're good at that. I'm not. And I'll support you.
I love when he does his free, his just live impromptu IG, Instagram hot
Yeah.
seats where you just, if he's on live. And anytime I've been on, if I raise my hand, he always brings me on. I'm like, Dan, I know all your
Oh.
people are here, but he always lets me come on and ask a question. And I
Mhm.
told him, I said, I don't know if there's an application to, I know adoption is usually when you adopt a child, but like I would just adopt you as my big brother. And he
Oh,
said,
yeah.
oh, it's absolutely a thing. It's totally a thing.
Oh, he would love that. 100%. I'll adopt him as my husband some days, and then other days will be business partner.
Hmm.
No. Um, Now I forget what I was going to say about this. But yeah, the quiet power thing is, it's so important, especially as women in business, to not feel the pressure to have to be all out there. And you
So
can have a private life and still be a successful entrepreneur. Like, you don't need permission.
that's a big thing too, because branding is like between AI and all of that, just instant output of information, whether it's quality or not. And then when I was coming up through this space, advertising wasn't even that big a deal. Like it's not what it is back then. I know it sounds like I'm talking about climbing the snow hills with no electricity, but back in the beginning days, you could have a Facebook page and you could send a message to your entire audience. They saw all of your posts. There was no algorithm restriction or suppression. And, we grow these platforms and then we get charged to use the things that we've grown. And so now I just look at a lot of people who, look, I think 2020 was an interesting thing. People were at home, they listened to a lot of voices on, what was that platform where everyone was talking for the first time? It was
Oh, Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I could never be on because I had infants and they could wake up or want to eat at any time, and people would bring me on the stage, and I'm like, just depends, just
Yeah.
depends on what
Heads
happened, just
up.
depends. But I feel like there was a lot of nothing burgers out there that got a really big platform. There are certain people that I know were actively, aggressively, and unfortunately just lying about their success to fit the status of the room. And I'm like, I know your numbers because you've talked to me about where you're struggling. And so now you're just going to make it up
Yeah.
so that you could be accepted. And I think 2020 made a big shift. And this is why I keep saying the toilet bowl, where most people are teaching what they've learned versus teaching what they've done. So this is why a lot of brands look exactly the same, like this or that. The only difference is yellow or blue, or you take all this pink and the only difference is this headshot and that headshot. So then it's just like, it's really not an expression of expertise. It's a mastery of a course that you've learned to then teach to others. Do I believe someone has a right to make money that way? Absolutely. But I do think that people who are those with big mission do need to learn with people who have a mantle to help you with your big mission. Some people in this industry are just experts, meaning they only know what it is that they know, but they don't have the ability to pull greatness out of you. Education, at least in America and a lot of countries, is about putting information into you versus the root word educere is to draw it out. And that's what Mr. Miyagi did to Danielson in Karate Kid, not the new one, like the original Karate Kid. He drew out greatness, not just the ability to fight. And that's what I try to do. And I like to work with women who actually desire that, sophisticated women who want elevation. They want to work with someone who has been in spaces that they've never been in before versus someone who looks like everybody else online or does what everybody else does. And that puts you maybe in a slightly different category. But I do think people have gravitated towards the average, that most training is average.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to be remarkable when you've immersed yourself in averageness and then you don't even know, because you think you're doing all the same branding that the expert taught you the way they did it, because they don't know have enough to mentor you. They can only expertise you, like baptize you in their own identity. And you're swimming in a toilet bowl and you don't even realize that you've never even stepped into your real voice. You just replicated somebody else's.
A couple of things. One is the movie Catch Me If You Can. Leonardo DiCaprio talks about how, like, when he got caught, how he was a college professor and they asked him how he did it. And he's like, I only had to be one chapter ahead. So there is truth. But also, the experience versus the expert. We look at like doctor as an example. They've been a doctor for 20 years, so they're experienced. But if a doctor is not actively trying to learn newer methods of doing things and really opening up the possibility, he's not an expert. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
to be successful, it comes down to one of my favorite quotes: consistency is your currency. You don't have to be the best at the world. You don't have to have the brightest smile or the loudest voice. But if you're the person showing up consistently, you'll always win.
Mm. How do
I
you
know
do
you
that
have to
when you
go.
got infants?
I know you have to go, but I do have one last question for you before you go and get your girls. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Mm. I think a wild woman is a woman who moves in faith, who is willing to keep getting back up, willing to keep getting on her knees and ask God for guidance, forgiveness, surrender, direction, peace, health, wellness. Like, is just willing to say, I can't do this on my own. I need you. And trust that you're heard and that your steps are ordered. I think a wild woman is one who helps other women. I think she is one who helps her to believe in her worthiness. I think she's one who dares to use her voice. I believe in that through speaking, and I think that our voice is a valuable asset that should be invested in. So I believe in paid speaking. I have made my millions by teaching a system called Speak for Pay. And then I also believe in business income that leverages your knowledge and your story, that doesn't require you to be on stage. It doesn't always require you to have to be on camera. And that's why I love coaching now. I love the high caliber scalability of it. And that the first time I sold a course and I didn't have to get on a plane because I was used to traveling to go speak, that was game changing. It was about $7,000. And it was the best, most important money I ever made. That's $7,000 because I knew that there could be a new way. And I didn't hear about it from a woman. I didn't see a woman. I saw some guys doing that. And I think my wild life now is doing things that don't make sense. My books are about belief. My business teaches business. And I will always write about belief. I only speak about belief. I choose not to use the biggest microphones for my life speaking and publishing. Because when you publish a book, and I love helping women to get book deals, when you publish a book, it's so intimate. When my life was at rock bottom, it was books that got me through. It wasn't the words of my friends. It wasn't any sermon I was hearing on Sundays. None of that was landing. It's the intimate experience of what book is on the nightstand next to you. And so when I wrote my book, Believe Bigger, that's who I wanted to be for another woman who was on the side of her bed, hadn't bathed, hadn't brushed her teeth, isn't sure how she's going to get up. For me, I'm not sure where my life goes next. For another woman, she might be not considering taking her life. And so business to me is an assignment, but belief for me is my destiny. It's my ministry, if you call it that, but it's my real voice. And it makes me mad sometimes because it doesn't go the way I want. But does anything really go the way we want in the wild?
No. No.
Does it?
I love it. Well, you remind me of one of my favorite quotes by Stevie Nicks. She says, if you're gracious, you've already won the game. And I believe that you definitely embody that.
Thank you. I needed to
So,
hear that today. Thank you so much.
well, Marshawn, where can people go to find you online?
So you can find me at marshawn.com. And if you click a button that says start here, you can get a free gift from me. And then there is a training that I have called Speak Coach Publish at speakcoachpublish.com. And you can learn about how to step into your voice as a paid speaker, how to step into what I call high end coaching versus high ticket. I think there's a very big difference. And then also how to become what I call a rich author. And how I think our real legacy comes through the words that we leave after we're gone. And I think these three avenues give us an opportunity to do that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I love you.